In our quaint neighborhood, there's a character everyone knows too well, the HOA Karen, with her perfectly manicured lawn and a clipboard always in hand. She patrols the streets like a self-appointed guardian of community standards. She has an uncanny ability to sniff out any deviation from the neighborhood rules, from garden gnomes that are a tad too whimsical to fences that dare to be painted anything other than beige. The residents have learned to tread lightly around her, knowing that a single misstep could lead to a visit from her, armed with threats of fines and demand for compliance. Her domineering presence casts a shadow over the community, turning simple acts of neighborly kindness into potential violations. As for me, I've had my share of run-ins with her. Initially, I tried to keep things amicable, waving hello as she scuttled by on her daily inspections. But it became clear that my backyard beekeeping, a passion I nurtured during long weekends, didn't sit well with her. To her, bees were just another nuisance to add to her list of grievances. Despite my attempts to explain the importance of pollinators and the joy of homemade honey, she remained unconvinced, viewing my buzzing friends as little more than an eyesore. Yet, in the grand tapestry of our neighborhood interactions, there was something about her overbearing nature that seemed ripe for a little poetic justice. Little did she know that the very bees she dismissed would soon play a pivotal role in settling our score. It was a sunny Saturday morning when I discovered the theft that would ignite my frustration. After weeks of nurturing my bees and collecting their golden honey, I had finally harvested my first batch of the season. The sweet scent of freshly bottled honey filled my kitchen, and I couldn't wait to share it with friends and family. It symbolized not just hard work, but also a connection to nature that I cherished deeply. As I stepped outside to grab a jar for a neighbor, I was greeted by an unsettling sight. The glass containers that once lined my porch were gone. Panic set in as I scanned the area, and then it hit me. HOA Karen had struck again. I rushed over to her yard, where she stood proudly, holding one of my jars up like a trophy. She offered a disingenuous smile, claiming she just borrowed it to taste what all the fuss was about. In that moment, I felt a wave of betrayal wash over me. This honey wasn't just syrup. It represented countless hours spent tending to my bees, ensuring they thrived. Each jar held not only sweet nectar, but also the love and care I poured into my hobby. My heart sank as I realized she didn't see it that way. She saw it merely as something to take without asking, disregarding all I had invested in this endeavor. What stung the most was the violation of trust. In a neighborhood where community mattered, she had crossed an invisible line. Little did she know that her actions would soon lead to an unexpected twist in our ongoing saga. With my heart racing, I marched over to HOA Karen's yard, determined to confront her about the honey theft. The sun hung high in the sky, illuminating the tension that crackled between us like static electricity. As I approached, she stood there with my jar in hand, a smirk plastered across her face, as if she had just won some grand prize. "Karen, you need to give that back," I said, trying to keep my voice steady despite the anger bubbling within me. "That honey is mine. You took it without asking." She waved her free hand dismissively, her perfectly coiffed hair catching the light. "Oh, please," she scoffed. "It's just honey. Everyone knows you have too much of it anyway. I thought I'd help you out by taking a little off your hands." Her tone dripped with condescension, as if I were overreacting to a trivial matter. I felt a mix of disbelief and frustration. How could she be so casual about something I pour my heart into? It's not just honey. It's a product of my hard work and dedication. You can't just take what doesn't belong to you. My voice rose slightly, betraying the emotional weight of the situation. "Calm down," she replied with an exaggerated sigh, rolling her eyes. "It's not like I'm going to ruin your precious beekeeping hobby." Her entitlement was staggering. She truly believed she could take whatever she wanted without consequence. In that moment, it became clear this wasn't just about honey. It was about respect and boundaries. My blood boiled as I realized that this confrontation was not going to end in a simple apology or return of my prized jars. Instead, it would spark something far more unexpected. After the confrontation with HOA Karen, I found myself pacing in my backyard, frustration bubbling beneath the surface. I was torn between wanting to confront her further and realizing that engaging in a drawn-out battle would only feed her desire for drama. While I contemplated my next move, a thought struck me like a burst of sunlight breaking through clouds. Why not let my bees handle it? The idea was both humorous and satisfying. It felt like poetic justice, using the very creatures that she dismissed as nuisances to teach her a lesson about respect and boundaries. I had spent countless hours nurturing my bees, learning their habits, and forming a bond with these tiny marvels of nature. They were not just insects, they were partners in my beekeeping journey, and I knew they had instincts that could come in handy. As I envisioned the scene, I couldn't help but chuckle. What if a swarm of bees decided to pay HOA Karen an unexpected visit? Suddenly, the thought of revenge didn't seem so harsh. It felt like an opportunity for a playful yet effective resolution. My mind raced with possibilities. Perhaps I could gently encourage them to explore her garden, where she would undoubtedly feel more than uncomfortable. I smiled at the absurdity of it all. The more I considered this plan, the more it resonated with me. It wasn't about being vindictive. It was about reclaiming my space and allowing nature to intervene in its unpredictable way. With each passing moment, my resolve grew stronger. I would let my bees handle the situation in the most natural way possible. After all, sometimes the best responses come from where you least expect them. With a newfound sense of purpose, I set about preparing my bees for their unexpected mission. Armed with my trusty beekeeping suit, I felt like a knight gearing up for battle, though my weapon of choice was a smoker, not a sword. As I approached the hive, I could hear the familiar hum of my buzzing companions, a sound that always filled me with warmth and pride. First, I inspected the hive to ensure everything was in order. "All right, team," I said aloud with a grin. "It looks like we have a special assignment today." The bees swarmed around me as if they understood my intentions. They danced in the air, performing their intricate figures that resembled a choreographed routine. Perhaps they sensed excitement in the air, or maybe they were just curious about my antics. I carefully opened the hive and took a moment to appreciate the beauty of their work. Glistening honeycombs filled with golden honey. "You lot have been working hard," I cooed. "How about we give HOA Karen a little surprise?" The idea made me chuckle. Imagining her face when she realized she had underestimated these tiny creatures was nothing short of delightful. Next, I decided to distract the bees with some sugar water, knowing they would get energized and eager for some adventure. A little treat before the big day. I exclaimed as I doused the feeder. They swarmed it instantly, their enthusiasm palpable. As they buzzed around me, I couldn't help but feel an odd sense of camaraderie with them. We were in this together now, a quirky team ready to reclaim our territory with humor and perhaps a touch of chaos. With each passing moment, the anticipation built, and I knew we were ready for whatever lay ahead. The day had arrived, and the sun shone brightly over the neighborhood. I watched from my porch, a mix of excitement and trepidation bubbling in my stomach as HOA Karen tended to her own garden, blissfully unaware of the chaos about to unfold. Her back was turned to me, which felt like the perfect setup for my little plan. As she adjusted her flower beds, she began waving her arms animatedly, likely chastising the weeds for encroaching on her precious flowers. But in her frenzy, she unknowingly brushed against my hive's perimeter. The bees, already stirred up from their earlier sugar feast, took immediate notice. A few brave scouts buzzed out to investigate this new intruder, and before long, a whole wave of them followed suit. What happened next was pure comedy. HOA Karen shrieked as she turned around and found herself surrounded by an angry cloud of bees. "Oh no! Get away!" she yelled, flailing her arms wildly like a windmill in a storm. Her panic was palpable as she dashed toward her front door, but the bees were relentless, chasing her all the way. Meanwhile, I couldn't help but chuckle at the spectacle unfolding before me. Neighbors peeked out from behind curtains and across fences, some stifling laughter, while others simply gawked in disbelief at the scene playing out. It became a neighborhood event, a chaotic performance featuring HOA Karen as the star of a slapstick comedy. As she finally made it indoors, slamming her door shut behind her, I felt a rush of satisfaction mixed with humor. The bees had served their purpose brilliantly, delivering a lesson wrapped in laughter. My heart swelled with pride for my tiny allies. They had handled the situation perfectly, reminding everyone that sometimes nature knows best how to restore balance. As the dust settled from the incident, a ripple of laughter and chatter spread to the neighborhood. Neighbors began to emerge from their homes, drawn by the commotion and eager to discuss what had just transpired. I stood on my porch, a mix of disbelief and amusement washing over me as I realized my little plan had turned into a neighborhood spectacle. "Did you see her run?" one neighbor chuckled, shaking his head in disbelief. I didn't know she could move that fast. Others joined in, sharing their own versions of the story as they recounted the scene with glee. The laughter felt infectious, breaking down barriers that HOA Karen had inadvertently built over the years with her strict rules and regulations. Support started pouring in for me as well. "You showed her. It's about time someone stood up to her," a kind neighbor said, clapping me on the back. I felt a sense of camaraderie building within our community, a collective acknowledgement that sometimes humor was the best way to confront an overbearing personality. However, not everyone was entirely unsympathetic to HOA Karen. A few neighbors expressed concern for her, noting that perhaps she had simply gotten carried away in her quest for perfection. "She does mean well, you know," one neighbor offered hesitantly, but the laughter continued to drown out any serious discussion about her behavior. As we swapped stories and shared a few lighthearted jokes about bees and gardening mishaps, it became clear that this incident had united us in a way that hadn't happened before. The shared laughter and mutual support fostered a warmth in our community, reminding us all that while HOA rules were important, they should never overshadow the joy of living alongside one another, bees and all. In the days that followed the bee incident, the neighborhood buzzed with energy, not just from the bees, but from a newfound sense of community. As for HOA Karen, she emerged from her temporary retreat with a slightly humbled demeanor. Rumors swirled that she had even taken to researching bees, eager to learn more about the creatures she once dismissed. One afternoon, she unexpectedly knocked on my door, a jar of store-bought honey in hand. "I thought I'd bring this over as an apology," she said, her tone softer than I had ever heard. "I didn't realize how much work goes into beekeeping or how angry bees can get." We both chuckled at the absurdity of it all. What followed was a surprisingly candid conversation about boundaries and community living. I explained my passion for beekeeping and how much it meant to me. She admitted that her intentions were never malicious. Rather, they stemmed from a desire to keep our neighborhood looking perfect. It was a moment of unexpected reconciliation, one that highlighted the importance of open communication and understanding. Reflecting on this experience, I realized how vital it was to maintain balance not just in nature, but within our community dynamics as well. Personal boundaries, while important, should also allow room for compassion and shared laughter. The bees had shown me that sometimes the most profound lessons come disguised in humor and chaos. As I walked back to my hive that day, I felt a renewed appreciation for both my buzzing friends and my neighbors. The balance of nature and community had been restored, reminding us all that we can coexist peacefully, even when things get a little messy along the way. As I reflect on the whirlwind of events surrounding the honey theft and my unconventional approach to resolving it, several key lessons emerge that resonate far beyond my backyard. First and foremost is the importance of standing up for oneself. In a world where boundaries are often tested, it's vital to assert what is rightfully yours, whether it's honey or personal space. Taking a stand can be daunting, but it often leads to unexpected growth and understanding. Equally significant is the value of humor in conflict resolution. My initial frustration transformed into laughter, not just for me, but for my neighbors as well. Humor has an incredible power to diffuse tension and foster connection. It reminds us that while conflicts can be serious, they don't always have to be approached with hostility. Sometimes a little levity can pave the way for meaningful dialogue and reconciliation. Moreover, this experience illustrated the unpredictable nature of both people and bees. Just as bees can surprise us with their behavior, people too can act in unexpected ways. HOA Karen's transformation from adversary to ally was nothing short of remarkable. It serves as a reminder that beneath our differences often lies common ground waiting to be discovered. I encourage readers to embrace their creativity when faced with conflicts. Think outside the box, Allow humor to guide your interactions, and find innovative solutions that reflect your values. Every challenge presents an opportunity for growth, both personally and within our communities. By navigating conflicts with grace and imagination, we can foster understanding and harmony, just like the delicate balance found in nature itself.